This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we're going to look at some viewer mail. For some of you who might be new to this channel, this is something that we do. Well, we've been doing it for a couple of years now, but people send me books and zines and things that they've been working on. And I like to celebrate the spirit of making things, and so I love sharing these with you guys. We got some really awesome work today, so I'm gonna jump right into it. So first up is this zine, which comes to us from Son Fam. This is called A Study of Escalators. I find this very interesting, and you're gonna see this theme. It's been popping up a lot lately in mail somehow, but this whole thing of like the macro subject and focusing in on something very specific, and that's exactly what I love about this. This is a zine full of escalator photos, and they're really good. Son also includes a note which reads, "Hi Ted, my name is Son, aka Sean. I am a software engineer in London. Recently I have decided to step up my photography game, shooting more film, making more prints, books, even taking more work and assignments. You have been a great inspiration. Please give us all a shout out if you are ever in the UK. P.S. I am sending along the first of my series of 7 photo zines called A Study of Street." So a couple of observations on this. First of all, I love the topic. It is very trippy, and of course in London there's no shortage of escalators once you jump down into the tube system. This is really cool. I think it's an awesome concept. I think it's very unusual and uncommon to see in street photography. And I think it also presents some interesting ideas geometrically when you have images that are on opposing spreads, and I like the way that Son has handled this. One in particular that I absolutely love is this one at the end where you get, I think this is probably an image of the same escalator in 2 different positions, and I think there is so much potential in this book. The only thing I can say about it is it kind of leaves me a little bit short. I want to see more, and I think it's such a wonderful restraint to put yourself in and to explore photographically. There's a lot of information in here. Anyways, Son, this is an awesome book. You should be very proud. I will link up to Son's work as well as everybody else in the show description, so make sure you check out and support your fellow photographers. Thanks for sending, man. This is awesome. Okay, next up is this book, which is really cool. You probably can't see it here. This is called Creatures of Fashion by Neville Forbes. I don't think we're related, but I like the work in here. I think Neville is definitely a brother from another mother. Also a note, and he talks about the card holder here. This is a little gold card holder for putting business cards in, I suppose. We'll like so. Sometimes I tend to forget who I am. There's also a note in the front of this book, and I'll read this to you. It says, "Dear Ted, I want to say thank you for all the amazing content that you share. The photography community will always love it. I wanted to share my first photography book with you, something that started as a passion project, but grew into a beautiful beast of a body of work. I hope that you enjoy it, and as always, would love to keep in touch. Thanks, Neville." And I'll read a little bit of the intro to this book of Creatures of Fashion. It says, "A project that started only to fulfill the need to challenge myself during a time of great personal challenges. It quickly grew its own legs and developed into something that I had dreamed for, but I did not think would come true at this time. What is a creature? Well, we all know the textbook definition of something animalistic, may it be human or non-human. We are all part of the journey of what fashion can be. To make a parallel to the animal kingdom, we all have levels of animal roles and importance. Some animals are more common and play it safe. They follow trends and maybe they add a little bit of their own unique style. On the other hand, some animals are rare and seek adventure. They push the boundaries of what can be done and reinvent what is fashionable. They have a space, and so all are creatures of the animal kingdom. This book is a culmination of art and courage. To me, when those two paths cross, we have created fashion. Thank you for everyone involved. It goes without saying this book is for you." So a couple of things that I really like about Neville's work. First of all, his use of flash is absolutely outstanding in here. I mean, there's a contemporary look when you see hard shadows placed on walls, and I think it really gets beautiful. And my favorite pictures are the ones where they're outdoors, and he's able to create with flash a balance with these natural landscapes, especially these cloud shots, doing things with backlighting that are really interesting, and I think that it has a great effect to it, and I really like this style of work. I think the color is outstanding. I think the book looks great. There are a ton of images in here. It's very well done. So having said that, Neville, and this is one of the things that makes it hard for me to kind of critique books that are sent in when I can't talk to the person face to face necessarily, but I think there's 2 ways you could look at this. I think, first of all, I wouldn't touch anything in this book. I think it's very well done. I am not a fashion photographer. I come more from the art world side of things, and so depending on what your goals are, I think as a fashion book, this is outstanding, and I wouldn't change a thing. I would say for your second book, and this is only if you're interested in taking my unsolicited advice here, just a couple things that I would think about in the future and balance out that could make this a little more more interesting. So the way this book is paced is you have facing spreads. They're all full bleed, and it's the same model on every 2 pages. The only exception to this is when you have one image that goes full bleed across the spread. And so my point is that there is 2 things that I would do, and I would consider this for a future project. So first of all, full bleed photos are fun, and I know that people want to do that all the time, but I think it works more as an effect when there's a reason to do it. In other words, I think having a white border on your images makes them breathe a little bit and makes them lift off of the page, and that's just my personal preference, but I would like to see a little more of that in here. I think it would frame up your compositions a little more formally, and you don't need a whole lot of border, but just when everything's full bleed, I feel like I'm looking at tear sheets. And like I said, for a fashion project, I think that probably is what you want, but just from my perspective, coming from the art side of things. The other thing that I would consider is that you kind of have this thing going where you have the same model on every facing spread, and then we go from one model to the next model, and there's a sameness and a little bit of monotony. When you're dealing with a book this thick, one thing that I would challenge you to do, and this is going to give you more of an art feel to it in the end, but I would look at your work and see if there is a dialogue or maybe a language of images that speak to one another that are not from the same photo shoot and are not of the same model. So for instance, you're probably going to put 2 different models, one on each spread, but then think about how do those photos relate from a compositional perspective. And that's really hard to do, but I think if you went for that, it's going to give you a lot more energy going through the book. It's going to be a lot less predictable when you turn the page, and I think that's something that could be really strong. So those are the only 2 things that I would change. I think the work is outstanding, and your photography skills are certainly top-notch, and I think you should be very proud of this as a first book. It's really cool. I love the concept, and again, unsolicited advice here, but that would just be my perspective from the art side of things, but I think it's very well done. So my man, thank you for sending. Thanks for the card holder, and yeah, check out his work. I'll put the link in the description below. So we've got some more projects here to look at. I've got another little macro subject that I talked about earlier that's really cool, and then we've got some abstract nature photos. But real quick, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor today, who are the awesome folks over at Squarespace. How easy is it to build an amazing website in a matter of minutes? Squarespace has you covered. It's dead simple. Head over to Squarespace, hit get started. You can start by selecting from an impressive collection of customizable templates, or you can do what I do, build your own. Something unique because, you're not like other websites. Give your site a name. Next, you can build your homepage. We'll start with a few preset layouts just to get us going. Want to sell products like books or prints? Well, you can feature those on your homepage. Create a few more sections if you want. Let's also give it a color palette. There's a whole bunch to choose from, and just get us started. We can change this all later. Next, let's select the typography choices. Welcome to your website. Everything is set up and it's all ready for you to customize. Squarespace is built on Fluid Engine, the next generation of website design. Select Edit, and Fluid Engine allows you to drag, place, and resize any element on the page. You can snap these to a grid, you can make them float on top of one another, you can freeform however you like. You can even preview and adjust how the site looks on either desktop or mobile. The layouts are independent. Of course, you'll want a portfolio for your work. Creating an image gallery is as easy as dropping a folder of images on your web browser. Once uploaded, you can drag to resort, customize the look, and Squarespace writes all of the code for you. Everything just works and it looks fabulous. Want to sell your own prints, books, or zines? Squarespace has the capabilities to not only set up your online store and collect payments, but they also give you all the tools that you're going to need to be successful. Managing shipping and payment options, manage your orders, and engage with your customers. They even give you the tax tools that you need to keep things organized and stay compliant. You should try Squarespace for yourself. It's absolutely free, no credit card required. Just go to squarespace.com/AOP, sign up for that free trial. If you decide Squarespace is right for you, I can save you an additional 10% on your order by using offer code AOP on checkout. That's right, the code is AOP. So stop procrastinating, go build your website today. And I want to give a special shout out and thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. All right, so next up is this little zine called Flight 1028. This comes to us from Bob Hankin, and check this out. I love this. His website is anxiousfrank.com. Bob also included a note which reads, "Dear Mr. Forbes, hello, I am a graphic design professor and I have been getting into photography lately. I 100% subscribe to the value of printing your work, be it a photograph or a design solution, so here's my first attempt at a photozine, all shot on my iPhone in the back seats of a moving car on the way to the airport. It's not fancy, printed at work on a color copier and scored and stapled and trimmed by hand. I have zero expectations that you'll view my work on camera. I'm just getting over the anxiety of sharing my work with people directly. I have a site where I post work and use Instagram, but those are rather sterile exchanges between myself and the random strangers that might be looking. Don't want to take up your time. Thank you, though, for the fantastic content that you provide. Huge fan of both YouTube and podcast. Take care, Bob." So, Bob, take it from me. I've done this for a long time, and the anxiety's real, and it never goes away for some of us. But you should be proud of this. This is really cool. I love the simple concept of this. All shot on one road trip on the way to the airport. Last month, I had one zine that came in that was all shot at an airport during a long layover, and so I should have strung those up. I didn't know that was coming. But anyway, this is really cool. I love the concept. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be simple, and I love the fact, take notes, folks, that Bob printed his own work. This wasn't even done at a professional zine publisher. This was just all done on a copier and stapled and scored and just made it home. Anyway, Bob, this is awesome. I really love it. Thank you for sharing. Okay, next up is this book, and bear with me. I'm going to attempt a pronunciation. This is Guled Arash, which means springtime. This comes to us from Dylan Garcia. Dylan also includes a note which reads, "Dear Ted, included is one of my Otherland books created as part of my Falmouth MA photography course. Please take a look below is a statement about the aim of the book as well as a statement in the book. The Otherland is a different dimension discussed in Welsh, Irish, Scottish, Brittany, Cornish mythology and explained by quantum mechanics multiverse. It is near and far at the same time, just around the corner, and yet unreadable without help. The Otherland is by invitation and reached by strange weather, talking animals, friendly gods, often reached by visiting barrow mounds, but it is not the afterlife as people often return. The times of dawn and dusk are when the Otherland is closest and when it is easiest to step across. The Otherland is golden lit, peace and happiness. The Otherland may be forgotten but never dies, as it lives in stories until the stories are forgotten and there are no more people left to rediscover them. The Otherland sits outside of time and history. Some people would say it is a story or a dream, but like dreams, is necessary for the human mind and human life. There are thin places where this world is close to the other world, but with the right help, all places are thin. It's more a combination of time, place, and fate. Yours, Dylan." That's heavy, man. Dylan, there's some really interesting work in here. I really love the abstract nature of all these. And one of the things that I really love about this, and I talked a little bit about this in the last video, but when you have stuff that kind of butts up right on that edge of abstraction versus reality, and the book that I was talking about called Sapped, and I'll link up to that video here if you want to see it, did it in a very different way. It was all done compositionally, kind of straight out of camera. And Dylan uses a lot of double exposure techniques in here, and I'm going to share this with you because it's really cool. The texture that this is printed on, it's probably not going to pick up in the video, but here's a print from the book, and it has a pretty wild 3D effect to it, which is really pretty cool. So you might have to look closer here, but I assume it's just double exposure. This is really cool. And what's interesting to me is the first time that I was looking through here, it has a very much an impressionistic feel to it when you think of like Monet's water lilies, but it's a different color palette. And I think that's something that's kind of cool. It's not trying to replicate something like past master paintings or impressionism. It's just using simple techniques to give a different lift to things. This one's really neat too, where you have a mountain in the background against what looks like a rock in the foreground. I think this is really cool, and abstraction is hard to do, and I think that especially with photography, because it's very different than painting. When painting, you have an application that is additive. In other words, you're going to put a layer of paint down, then you add stuff to it. Photography, on the other hand, is very different because you're behind a camera and you're shooting what's before you, so it's not additive in the same sense. It's more subtractive. You're choosing what not to put in the frame or where to move the camera, and so abstraction's a hard thing to deal with photography without coming off, I guess, a little corny sometimes, and I really like this work. I think it is absolutely phenomenal, and good luck on your MA. This is really cool. So I will link up to Dylan's work and everybody else in the show description below. I want to thank everybody for sending something in today. If you guys want to see more videos, I'll link up a playlist here of all our awesome mail time stuff. So anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Until then, later.